En Cox estamos un paso adelante, como el muchacho que ya sabe la orden de tu cafecito incluso antes de pedirlo.
¡Hey, José! ¿Café con leche sin lactosa, un toque de vainilla, templadito sin azúcar?
En Cox también nos adelantamos a lo que necesitas. Por eso el precio de tu plan no subirá por 3 años. Y nuestra seguridad avanzada protegerá tu red de amenazas antes de que pasen. Cox, un paso adelante. José, llamada de tu jefe en 3, 2, 1. Al menos 500 megabits por segundo de velocidad y Cox Unlimited Mobile. Impuestos y cargos no incluidos en garantía de precio. Velocidad de datos móviles reducida tras usar 20 gigas al mes.
Paul, so it's been a favourites World Cup. Each of the group winners through the round of 16, it's all a bit dull, isn't it?
Yeah, except that it's anything but dull. We are recording this at 12:45 on Tuesday night, which means we've just watched the heroic performance of the USA as they were... USA, as they were overcome by the might of Tintin and his waffle army.
That's right. Well, watch out, Belgium. You will be bombed tonight. No.
We'll keep geopolitics out of this, mostly.
Yeah. It's not geopolitical anyway, the Americans. It's just... No.
Anyway, what extraordinary football we have borne witness to in this, the greatest World Cup of our lifetimes.
Well, too right. I mean, we thought Marouane Fellaini couldn't get any worse. Ladies and gentlemen, he can. 120 minutes of utter gash against the US for Belgium. I've barely seen a player play worse. Well, maybe Angel Di Maria, but we'll come on to that.
So harsh on the man who scored the winning goal. Both Ozil and Di Maria scoring after truly terrible performances in the round of 16.
Ozil's been poor all tournament, to be honest. Anyway, look, we said we look forward to the quarterfinals, and then within that preview of 4 excellent-looking quarterfinal games coming up on Friday and Saturday. We'll look back at the round of 16 too, so a bit of a mishmash here, but our first quarterfinal, and it's a bit of a mouthwaterer, I would say, is Brazil versus Colombia, and interesting couple of games to get them through to the quarterfinal, don't you think?
I'm just shaking my head slowly with kind of anticipation and joy at the prospect of this game. I mean, let's start with that Brazil game against Chile. The first half of that was as breathtaking as anything we saw until the second half of extra time in Belgium-USA. Just absolutely end-to-end, relentless, just bombing up and down the pitch either side. Both kind of almost ultimately lacking a bit of quality in the final third. It's kind of a weird thing to say about those two teams, but... Well,
it is when you've got Alexis Sanchez and Vargas and Neymar, Oscar, Hulk, and so many attacking talents. But yeah, I mean, completely right. The intensity of the game was incredible. I mean, part of that's, of course, the way Chile play, very in-your-face, attack, throw men forward. Although a little bit weird, their tactics. I mean, they'd played pretty good football through the group stages and basically went very, very direct. A lot of diagonal balls, trying to move Alexis into the channels, and it didn't quite work for them all the time, did it?
No, I thought it was a really serious error, because I thought Brazil were there for the taking if you match them in that midfield. I think if Chile had tried to pass round Brazil, they would have found a lot of success by that method.
And which is exactly the way they try to play in the group stages too, yeah. So, I mean, look, they're not the best side we've ever seen, Chile, but, they play in a fantastically intense and interesting and attacking way, and so they're very good to watch. Definitely have weaknesses. Brazil eventually exploited some of that, although not nearly as much as I suppose they thought they might have done, given the fact they were playing at home and their record against Chile and all of that kind of stuff. So, and in the end, Chile gave as good as they got, didn't they? A couple of minutes of bits of quality on either side for the goals, and just a joy to watch in the end. Not the highest quality game of football you'll ever see, but fine entertainment.
Yeah, a real game of two halves in a quality sense. Both the goals came in the first half, and most of the really good play came in the second half. I think as we look forward to the quarter-final game, we'll maybe talk a bit about Neymar, because he completely disappeared from that game, almost kicked out of it, actually, by some pretty rough treatment at the hands of Chile. But Neymar involved in everything Brazil did in the first half, and next to nothing they did in the second half.
Well, he's just brilliant to watch when he's on the ball. When he's got the ball in front of him and he's running, he's just so dynamic and clearly streets ahead of his compatriots. I mean, take Neymar out the side and you don't half feel Brazil are just a little bit average. And part of that's to do with the fact that they've got Fred up front, who's just the wrong man, I think, for that role. I mean, I know you can win the World Cup with an average centre-forward, of course. It's been done before, but it doesn't half feel like a weight round them. But, Neymar's the opposite. Give him the ball and he's free. But couldn't do it for the whole game. And that's a worry for them, of course, because they're going to need that in the later stages.
Yeah, and honourable mention to Hulke for coming good to a certain extent. I mean, his goal was rightly disallowed.
Incredible pronunciation there, Paul.
Very good, Ed. You wouldn't like me when I'm not pronouncing names correctly.
Shout out to Rio, of course. We called him the Hulk.
Yeah, it's good.
During commentary.
Good, very good. But yeah, I thought Hulk had an excellent second half, really came to life, and was good to see, and he rightly had a goal ruled out. Little harsh to give him a yellow card for that, but nonetheless. And Pinilla, who hit the bar in the last split second of the match, as far as my memory has it, has had a tattoo done, apparently, according to something I saw on Twitter, might not be true, saying 10 centimetres from greatness or something, with a picture of him hitting the bar. You think you want to leave it a bit longer after the match to see if you definitely constantly want to be reminded of that moment.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I suppose if he was the Spurs marketing department, he'd have brought out a DVD.
The penalty,
every possible angle.
Not the best penalty shootout we've ever seen, and definitely not the best penalty shootout in the round of 16, which we'll come to. So Colombia, Uruguay then. Brazil's opponents in the quarterfinals brushed aside Uruguay. Uruguay offered some sort of vaguely stout resistance for a bit, and then, I don't know, the best goal ever scored at a World Cup? Maybe not. That might be a hyperbole. But for me, it knocked Robin off the number one spot for goal of the tournament so far.
Oh, how can you say that, Paul? Sacrilegious. But yeah, true. Just an unbelievable piece of skill to take it on his chest. And he's not a huge man by any means. Rodriguez, he's no Marouane Fellaini when it comes to chest control. But he did something that Fellaini couldn't even do in his dreams. Fellaini would fall over trying this, to take it on the chest, spin round and slam in that left-footed volley. Absolutely stunning goal from James Rodriguez, or however you want to say, James Rodriguez.
Who's
been the star of the World Cup so far.
Absolutely, no question. And he scored again in that game. Another fine goal, some lovely passing movement. Just an excellent performance for Colombia, and they've been the most complete side in the tournament so far. So I think Luis Gustavo is missing, if I'm not wrong, from this quarter-final, because he picked up what I think is his second yellow card. Which feels like a huge miss for Brazil, because the rest of their midfield looks beyond average.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess Paulinho will come back into the side, and he hasn't been anywhere near as good, has he? As Gustavo, who looks like he should be in a 1920s jazz band, I think, with that little moustache he's got. Excellent facial hair there.
Him and I think it's Alvaro Pereira, but it might be Diego Pereira. One of the Pereiras in Uruguay. They could be in a band together. They've got a real matching jazz vibe going on.
A matching pair of useless fullbacks as well there. Maybe that's harsh. Not the best. But yes, indeed. The only Uruguay player who was worthy of being on the pitch was Diego Godin, who's a fine central defender. Had a fine World Cup, actually, I think. And I guess we'll get onto him a little bit later. But overall, Colombia just superior in every department. Well worth their 2-0 victory and well worth a quarter-final shot at Brazil. They'll certainly give them a game. It'll be interesting because I have a feeling that they'll probably sit back and try and hit Brazil on the break rather than being, sort of taking the game to Brazil in the way that Chile tried.
So if you were like an alien who had no knowledge of the history of football and the only football you'd ever watched was this World Cup, you would be predicting that Colombia would absolutely smash Brazil off the park, right? Because they've been head and shoulders above Brazil in terms of quality of play.
Yeah, but we know it doesn't work like that, right? We know it doesn't work like that. I mean, Brazil are warming up through this tournament. I think they'll step up a level because they have to. And Colombia, some of this is mental, right? They're going to be playing in Brazil's backyard, and it's an away game for them. And I wonder whether they might just not approach it like that, and therefore cede some of the control and the impetus to Brazil. I might be totally wrong about that. I just have a feeling that's what they're going to do. We'll find out. They've certainly got the quality in the team to take the game to Brazil, though.
You'd think with Peckerman in charge, they've got a very smart tactician at the helm who is going to be trying to instill in his players the sense that they are the better team heading into this fixture. Because if you look almost everywhere on the pitch, Colombia have been better than Brazil in this tournament. The only caveat to that would be Neymar in terms of performance. And actually, Julio Cesar, excellent performance against Chile. But, I mean, I feel really reluctant to predict a Colombia win because you do think that mental side of it is going to be crucial. And the fact that it's Brazil in Brazil. But they could do it. Surely Colombia could do it, right?
They could, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they could. They've got the quality. And, in Gutierrez and Martinez, they're going to have, plenty of attacking quality up front. I mean, it depends how they play, of course. We'll see whether they play sort of what basically looks like a 4-4-2 sometimes. In Cuadrado and Rodriguez, they've got, loads of quality coming from midfield. So, absolutely, they've got the players who can cause Brazil problems. Absolutely, they can score. And we'll just see. I just wonder whether Brazil might step it up.
All right, so you predicting a Brazil win if we're doing
I'm predicting a very narrow Brazil win, yes.
Okay, well, I'm going out on a limb because I really want Colombia to win. I'm not quite sure why, just because I've enjoyed watching them so much in this tournament, I think, and it would just be amazing. I kind of wanted Chile to win, but halfway through that game you're thinking, if Brazil go out now, it's going to be really depressing for the tournament as a whole sort of thing. It's always rough when the host nation goes out of World Cups and get them an extra game. They get to play the quarterfinals as well. But this can be as far as they go, and we'll see James Rodriguez and the boys do the job.
Very good. So on to the next quarterfinal then. We have Holland or the Netherlands. Depending on whether you're a Netherlands, Holland, Dutch fan, of course, because they shout Holland. But it's only an area of Holland. I know that.
But the football team is colloquially referred to as Holland.
Exactly.
So the country is Netherlands, not the Netherlands, but Netherlands. But the football team, perfectly acceptable to refer to them as Holland.
Okay, there you go. Versus the Costa Rica, perfectly acceptable to refer to them as pretty bloody good during this tournament.
Absolutely.
And really, partly a massive snooze fest versus Greece, the Costa Rica game. Massive snooze fest against your boys who just could bore paint while drying. And partly,
right.
Massively dramatic, of course, because of the nature of the narrative of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I was writing about the game, when you're sort of writing about a game, especially when you have to draw out tactical points, it's never quite as boring as when you're just watching it for the endeavour. So actually, even during the first half, it was really funny because at halftime, Michael Cox from Zonal Marking tweeted, "I don't think this is as bad as everyone's saying," and that was kind of how I felt about it, because actually tactically there was something really quite interesting going on, because you had these two teams built on counter-attacking, both trying to persuade the other one to counter-attack and not having any success in doing so whatsoever.
Yes, I wonder, I can't actually remember who said this now. Someone else said at halftime, I bet some of you are claiming right now that this is a really interesting tactical battle.
It was, though.
And I was thinking, yeah, just not that entertaining for about 120 minutes.
I'm not having... people have slated Greece for their lacking attack of endeavour. 23 attempts on goal to Costa Rica's 7 in that game. Greece's problem is not attacking endeavour, it's attacking quality. This is clearly the case. Against Ivory Coast, they really came out of their shells too. It's the kind of easy cliche about Greece, and it certainly was thoroughly true in Euro 2004, but they absolutely tried to attack in this game.
Yeah. They like defending like they like a philosopher, the Greeks. You know, it's culturally built into their DNA.
And talking of a philosopher, massive shouts to Socrates Papastathopoulos, who has been, well, we'll talk about that later, but one of my central defenders of the tournament. Greece's back four have been really good all the way through this tournament.
They have, very true. And just while you're on that, sorry for interrupting, but Lee Dixon. Now, can I just talk about Lee? Yeah, he's a nice man, and generally speaking, his punditry's okay. Got a little bit confused about old Socrates, like the philosopher, spelled the same way, and thought it was a nickname. He was like, what a nickname that is. Interesting.
Interesting indeed. It is quite difficult to work out sometimes with the Greek players what their nickname is versus what's just a different spelling in English. Anyway, it's a whole Greek sub-editor nightmare, believe me. I mean, ultimately, Greece didn't win this game. Costa Rica, a fine goal. Basically, Greece's one defensive lapse in the whole game. Maniatis drawn too deep into the box and didn't spot that Brian Ruiz was sort of standing unmarked. And are you giving Ruiz that as a deliberate goal, or do you think he scuffed it?
I think he might have scuffed it.
He's a classy player. He's good enough to do that.
He was looking one way and hit it into the other corner. So it's certainly a fine. I mean, you know, we're all for giving the keeper the eyes, but maybe not, you know, deep into a World Cup round of 16.
Yeah, now we were all kind of like waiting for Greece to be knocked out of the tournament, but they don't go down easy, and that remarkable last gasp drama, and then what a penalty shootout, Ed, after sort of 90 slightly, let's say, tactically interesting minutes, and then 30 actually very exciting minutes. Penalties of the highest possible quality.
Yeah, some of them absolutely hammered into the top corner. I mean, wow, some bravery or foolhardy. I'm not sure which, but yeah, I mean, you know, if you're going to miss hard, right? Rather than dribbling it wide of the post.
Yeah, and Keylor Navas in the Costa Rica goal kept them in the game because Greece had plenty of chances, and then...
Well, he's been outstanding all tournament, Navas, and apparently available for not very much money either. I think there'll be someone snapping him up for some very decent wages after the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And that's an awful lot of time spent on Greece against Costa Rica, and Costa Rica are going to be playing United in the next round.
I said United for the World Cup. I said last week, FA Cup better than Carling Cup, Premier League better than FA Cup, Champions League better than Premier League, World Cup better than everything else. We are going to be the champions. And, you know, we have a genius manager. This is an average Holland side. He's even said it. They do not have that many good players. I mean, honestly, apart from Robin, I'm not sure I'd have too many of that Dutch squad at all at United. Maybe Memphis, and he's not even playing. And this is an average side. He tinkers. He changed the formation 3, maybe 4 times during the game against Mexico. Unbelievable, you know, switching around the formations and players just to squeeze that little bit out, and it worked for them.
Also, I'm fairly convinced that some mafia boss has paid Louis van Gaal off in order to conduct an elaborate hit on Dirk Kuyt, because otherwise, why would you play him at left back in the sunshine in the first half, and then at half-time swap him at right back so he's in the sunshine for the whole of the second half as well?
Well, I thought that was brilliant. Obviously, being an ex-Scouser, he deserves all he gets. Quite hilarious. I mean, it's 38-39 in the sun. I mean, you know, I know that's not how you normally record a temperature. You know, 30 in the shade and high humidity. Believe me, that is hard to sit around, as we saw when the sunny side of the stadium emptied out completely.
Yeah.
You know, if the fans are moving. I'll tell you stuff. And it wasn't a great game as a result, actually. You know, played in a very lethargic manner. And it doesn't half make me think how bad the World Cup in Qatar might be, even if they shift it to winter.
There's not going to be a World Cup in Qatar. Not after this one. But anyway, about 70 minutes into that game, I tweeted Holland would be a much better side if Wesley Sneijder had not totally lost it. And I put totally lost it in capital letters. Found it again all right, didn't he?
Well, he certainly did. I mean, the interesting thing about Sneijder is he starts off in the number 10 position, and through the game he goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't think that's him going deeper. That was Van Gaal trying to get someone into the middle of the field that could actually keep the ball, because Holland were having some real problems with that. And, you know, and notwithstanding the fact that they've basically gone very direct through the tournament anyway, which is un-Van Gaal-like, but again, he's devised a strategy to get the most out of his limited group of players. But right at the end, Sneijder comes up with the goal, fine goal too, and the drama with a very, very, very last-minute penalty to break old Chicho's heart.
I mean, how United is that? 87 minutes into that game, it's 1-0 to Mexico, and Holland win in normal time. Mexico would be doing them an immense disservice not to praise to the high heavens their performance in the first half of that game, and probably up to about the 60-minute mark. They just looked exceptional, and they just may be tired. They also got a bit unlucky. Robben dived, but Marquez sort of stuck out an exhausted leg, and Robben should have had a penalty in the first. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Arjen Robben, but I wasn't particularly up in arms over that one.
Well, no. I mean, Robben may have dived, but Marquez put a big billboard up saying, "Please fall over my leg." So, what you're asking for it, right? So, yes, look, players have bought penalties for ever and ever and ever, and it is effectively cheating, but don't give them the opportunity. As the Cameroonians will tell you to Gary Lineker's face.
So that brings us to the quarterfinal between the Netherlands and Costa Rica, between Holland and Costa Rica. Costa Rica, you'd think, would sit back and try and hit Van Gaal's men on the counter-attack. We saw in the Australia game that actually they were slightly uncomfortable on the front foot, Holland. But I don't know, I feel like they must have got an enormous confidence boost from that turnaround at the end of that game. And if I'm not mistaken, it's not going to be played in the same sort of conditions as that game.
Well, no, and they're all played further south now. No more in Manaus and Fortaleza, I think.
Right.
I think I'm right in saying that, which are the two, hot and humid conditions. Yeah, I wonder whether Holland, I mean, I said this last time out, I wonder whether they'll switch to 4 at the back now. It makes a lot of sense against Costa Rica. In fact, they did in the second half against Mexico, and I just don't think they need the 5 defenders back there. I think they are going to be on the front foot. They need to get another body who can play the ball in midfield, and he has a dilemma there because De Jong's out. He'll probably play Daley Blind in there, which is not bad actually, because he's a very good passer of the ball. He's got absolutely no pace whatsoever, which is why he switched from the left wing back, I think. So it might suit them okay to play Blind in there and actually get someone on the ball. And then how will they work the triumvirate of Sneijder and Robben and Van Persie? It will be interesting to see whether they still stick with Sneijder just behind the two, or whether they push him to a little bit to the left. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't push Sneijder to the left and Robben to the right.
Very interesting. And it would be extremely remiss while we're on the subject of Holland to not discuss him taking Robin Van Persie off when he did.
Ah, yes, but I mean, I think it was the right call.
Oh, yeah, but
he needed some legs at that time, and I think it's easy to. It'd be easy to read too much.
No. You're misunderstanding my intention. What I just wanted to point out was when Robin Van Persie really desperately needed to be substituted against Newcastle United last season, David Moyes said, "How would it have looked if I took him off at that point?" Louis van Gaal took him off at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a fair point. Yeah, look, here's a man who's completely in control of his thinking and very clear-headed all the time, and a brilliant strategist and a fine tactician, and made the right call, and it effectively won them the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talking of winning the game, who's going to win? We're both going to predict a United win for this one, surely.
Well, I think United will win, yeah. It's interesting because, you're right in saying that United weren't very good when we took on the Aussies in the group stages. And, it's one of those mental things, isn't it? Have to get back into that kind of attacking mentality, the Dutch. And that's one of the reasons I wonder whether Van Gaal might go to 4 at the back again, just to put an extra body into midfield. and try and get on the front foot.
Yeah, and Van Gaal taking great advantage of what Glenn Hoddle said. For me, these aren't cooling breaks, they're tactical breaks. Whilst I thought that was a completely ridiculous thing to say of people who could quite feasibly, all joking aside, die playing in heat like that without taking on enough fluids. But actually Van Gaal did totally use the second one as a tactical break, changed to a 4-3-3. Yeah.
Well, and so you said it afterwards. Yeah, completely. And then Glenn Hoddle went on a conspiracy rant suggesting, I think, that FIFA was somehow bringing them in for advertising purposes, which was a little odd.
Lol, Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah, he's a nut job, isn't he? He's quite entertaining actually, but he is a nut job. But yeah, Van Gaal said afterwards that he used the break to change around the tactics, and absolutely, why not?
So, a Haaland win on the cards and Van Gaal in the semi-final, but we don't have to worry about that because he said even if they get to the World Cup final, he doesn't need a holiday. He's going to go fly straight out. I think the World Cup final's on the 13th and United's Tour of America starts on the 18th of July, and Van Gaal will be there because he doesn't need a Van Holiday. Every day's a Van Holiday when you're Louis Van Gaal.
Very good. Well, yeah, he said that all the United players that have gone out early have to turn up for the US tour, so we will see Wayne Rooney in the US. He's already in the US, enlarging it up in Vegas at the moment. Looking after his body, I'm sure.
Lukey Shaw will be out there too, so that'd be interesting to see. Because that's been done since we last recorded, right? I think we in the last show we were talking about him maybe being at Carrington for medical. I was slightly cynical about that, but he was. Yep. So there you go.
He was indeed signed, and a huge amount of money spent by United in the last few days. The first of many, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
And Ed Woodward finally doing his job.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting times.
Good question here, right? So apart from Van Persie and Van Gaal, are there any other United players left in the tournament?
Yes.
I think
yes,
not.
Of course, because we're now coming to... excusez-moi, on va discuter par un minute de le sujet de l'équipe de Patrice Evra, non?
Oui, le singe est dans le mange. that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
The monkey's in the food. Yeah. Ce n'est pas bien ça. On veut pas mettre le singe dans le manche. Anyway, it's quite late at night, so you'll have to forgive us. La Belle France joue contre Germany in the next round, the quarterfinals. Neither of these teams entirely convincing in their quarterfinals. I would say particularly Germany were pretty unconvincing against Algeria.
They weren't very convincing against the US in their final group game either. Yeah, I mean...
Or Ghana.
I'm waiting for them to really spark into life because they've got so many high-quality players. And, they're trying to get the right system. Is it Schweinsteiger who should be in there? Is it Khedira who should be in there? How do they use Kroos, who sometimes slows the game down more than they really want to? How do they get the best out of Muller? Is he a false nine? Is he a striker? Should they have Klose in the side as a more of a focal point? They're insisting on playing Lahm in the centre of midfield when maybe they should shift into fullback because that's where one of their weaknesses is, and get Khedira and Schweinsteiger in the middle. How do they use Goetze because they're not using him? And loads of questions. And I went a bit Lawrenson for a second there about Germany, and they're going to have to answer them pretty quick because France are going to give them a real game in this quarterfinal.
Yeah, absolutely. Our mutual friend Simon is married to a German lady, and about 3 minutes into the game he put on Facebook that she was already calling for Miroslav Klose, so this was not a good sign. But yeah, Germany were woeful in that game and really lucky, and it was horrendous, proper heartbreak stuff for Algeria. You really felt like Algeria needed to score in those 90 minutes, and they would have done were it not for the remarkable, I can't think of a better word than antics of Manuel Neuer, a sweeper keeper in the most René Higuita sense.
Well, and the thing is that in Hövedes and Mertesacker, they've got a couple of guys that, it has to be seen to be believed how slow these guys are. It's like they're on permanent slow motion, and especially Mertesacker. And they held the most incredible high line. Almost pushing up to the halfway line when these guys can't run more than 10 yards in 10 seconds, let alone 100. And so all the time the ball was going over the top, seeking to get those Algerian runners through. And there was Neuer flying out with his head and tackles and everything to try and clean up.
And he did it incredibly successfully. The Algerian counter-attacking threat was essentially single-handedly neutered by Manuel Neuer, which I've never seen anything quite like that game, basically. Because as you say, you've got the world's slowest defence playing a really high line against incredibly pacey and potent attacking. Slimani looked really good. I thought that basically the entire Algerian front five looked really impressive on the counter. Algeria just generally looked excellent in that game. And it was just that kind of, when it got to 90 minutes, Germany scored so quickly in extra time, much like Belgium did tonight. So it had that sense at that point, well, this they're not going to come back from this. Although there was that little tiny late flourish of drama, but it was too late. But how did Mesut Ozil end up? Like, the records will show that Mesut Ozil scored in that game. Nobody's going to be talking in 100 years when they look back at the records of what a stinker he had.
Proper stinker, yeah. Well, it's one of the things about Ozil. He's got so much talent and just he's beautiful on the ball and he creates and scores goals and drifts into space, but then he just drifts out of the game completely.
He's not so much drifted out of the game as drifted out of the season this season in about November, and he's never been back.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating, I suppose, if you're an Arsenal fan or you're a Germany fan, because here's a man who's got as much talent as any playmaker on the planet, and he's just not applying it. And you got to wonder how you get the best out of him. Do you have to play with a more structured midfield and just give him the ball, play him in the centre? He's coming off wide areas all the time, and is that suiting him the best? Is the balance of the team right? I kind of alluded to it earlier. I think that's Germany's major problem, really, the balance of the side, because they've got so many talented players, and this time round they played with Muller and Ozil and Goetze as the front three to start with. Schweinsteiger started, not Khedira. Lahm's the sort of holder, and Kroos, well, just a brilliant player, but what is his role in the side? He gets the ball more than anyone else and just kind of rotates possession, but is that enough? And you just wonder whether he's going to be more dangerous in a more forward position. So I just wonder whether they're going to make some tough decisions about which of those 5 or 6 players actually play.
I think there's interesting questions about Joachim Löw, and Pep Guardiola has had such an effect on this team in one season at Bayern Munich, because they sort of are kind of trying a bit to play tiki-taka a little bit, but they're not really doing that because it's not Bayern Munich and Löw isn't coached in that tradition. But he has done the thing of converting Lahm to defensive midfielder, which has worked extremely well for Pep, but really doesn't look like it's working well for Germany. So there is this kind of, it's almost like Löw's got the shadow of Pep over his shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be tempted. It kind of depends on Mustafi. Is he fit or not? I suppose it looked like he might not be. If he is fit, he's a nice attacking fullback, and maybe move Lahm to the other one. Then you've got some width from attacking fullbacks, and just go a bit narrower, because that's where the talent is. I'd be tempted to move Toni Kroos a bit forward and play Klose and Moller and Kroos kind of going behind, and then pick one other of the talented players, whether it's Ozil or Goetze, and then have a solid base in Khedira and Schweinsteiger, and I've probably got about 13 players in there. But I just don't think the balance is quite right there. I'd be tempted for them to go much more narrow and use the width in the fullbacks, because they do have some attacking fullbacks. They just insist on not playing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to have to be a lot better to beat France, who, now I might be very biased about this, but I think France have been easily in the top, definitely in the top 5 sides so far in this tournament. Not saying much when there's only 8 teams left in it, but let's say top 3 maybe. I've been really impressed with them, and they looked especially impressive. I was talking on Twitter with Sam Teague from the Bleacher Report, who writes all their tactical previews, and when I was saying it seems extraordinary that they're sacrificing Benzema's most effective qualities to play Giroud in the side, and he said he thinks it's because Nigeria tend to crowd out the middle of the park, so Deschamps tried to do it to give Benzema more space to operate, but instead Benzema basically got a Rooney-style hump, as far as I could tell, and just was not putting himself into the game. And when he did get the ball, he just wasn't switched on. But as soon as Giroud came off for Griezmann and then Benzema switches into the middle, France looked a completely different side.
Well, yeah, but it took them an hour to get there, didn't it? Yeah, I mean, look, Deschamps has found the answer in the end. Benzema is just so much more mobile than Giroud. I honestly couldn't understand why they played him up there. It just seemed to blunt France's attack, a loss. And it just wasn't a good game for an hour as a result. But, eventually they found it, got the very late goals, and they deserved the win in the end, I think, against Nigeria. But, it might not have happened for them if they hadn't spotted exactly where it was going wrong. And it'd be interesting to see the balance that they play as well against Germany. Because, I think they have to attack. And I think they have to attack by playing Griezmann and Valbuena and Benzema as their front three.
If they don't do that, they're crazy as far as I'm concerned. Ils sont fous, ces Français, if they don't do that. I mean, I think in Matuidi and Pogba, you've got maybe the best two in any 4-2-3-1 anywhere in the tournament, and if you include Cabaye, I think that's probably the best midfield three, even in terms of how functional it is. And in fact, it is more of a 4-3-3 because previously he's played Cabaye advanced of Pogba and Matuidi, but in this one, like Cabaye is basically, I don't know, he's holding, and Pogba and Matuidi are alternating who goes and who stays.
Yeah, it's a lovely balance to the midfield if they get it right, but they unbalanced their attacking unit, didn't they, for an hour or so against Nigeria? And I'd be surprised they make the same mistake again. The one thing you'd say about Giroud is that, if you have him in the side, not only do you have that, in theory, the aerial threat, but you also have a player who's going to hold the ball up better than Benzema. Benzema's always looking for the ball in front of him. And where Giroud won't do that. So it kind of depends on whether they think they're going to take the game to Germany or not. Because really, they're not, right? Germany are going to have the ball more often. Kroos is going to get the ball a lot, and Germany are going to have 60% possession. Which the question is then, are France going to use their pace, or are they going to need someone up there to hold the ball?
I mean, I don't think Germany will have 60% possession. I mean, we might be splitting hairs, but I don't think it'll be quite that high. I kind of totally agree that it's going to be over 50, but actually France have used the ball really well when they've had it. Valbuena's had a magnificent tournament. What a player he looks. I don't know.
If really the lad grew a bit, he'd be a real talent, wouldn't he?
Nigeria, brilliant for the first 60 minutes of that game defensively, rock solid. I mean, Giroud made it quite easy for them, but Enyema, again, excellent. I've really loved watching him play. And did you see the thing with Messi in the tunnel, Enyema and Messi, when Enyema was complaining to the referee that Messi kept getting free kicks? He said, he's so much better and I'm so bleep. And then the referee said, no, if you were rubbish, he didn't say rubbish, he used to swear. He said, if you were rubbish, you wouldn't be here. It was a nice moment anyway.
Mind you, he likes to flap, Enyema, doesn't he? He got a bit flappy.
He got maybe a little flappy, but I don't know, he more than makes up for it, I think, in quality, in general.
A shot stopper, as the pundits might say. I couldn't possibly comment.
I don't think that's fair, though. I really don't think that's fair about Enyema. I think his box control is generally good, and he only got flappy when it got really nervous in that game. That's my take on it, anyway. And I think if you
squeaky bung time for him, so yeah, maybe the box control wasn't so good.
If you put him behind a really solid back four, I think you'd find a very, very top quality keeper. Anyway, we can agree to disagree on that for sure, because we should predict who's going to win between France and Germany.
Horrendously difficult to predict this one. Horrendously difficult. I think the Germans might just step up, and I think they've got superior quality but it comes down to the details, because that German back four was what a mess that was in the last round. So France can definitely take advantage. I just think Germany are going to do it.
I mean, I kind of understand why you're saying that, but that is properly throwing the form book out the window, isn't it? Because on form, France should, much similar to Colombia and Brazil, only with less of an inferiority complex. I'd make France reasonable favourites for this game. I don't know. Maybe I'm being over cocky. But of course, I would absolutely love it if France won this game.
I think I'm right in saying they haven't met in the World Cup since 1982, and that game.
Bad. Joel Schumacher, Ed.
Yeah. Joel Schumacher's long lost nephew. Yeah, Harold Schumacher trying to kill Battiston with his flying legs.
God, that was grim. No, they definitely met since then, because the same thing happened when they played in '86 in the semi-final in '86, and he took someone else out because he was an evil man who liked killing Frenchmen. Yeah, as far as I could work out.
Terrible. Anyway, yes. So I'm just predicting a Germany win. I may change my mind.
I'm kind of like, given the fact that you were right about all the things we disagreed on in the round of 16, I'm reluctant to predict the opposite, but I have to, because it'd be just gutting to go out to Germany.
Well, we should call this Cluffcast, really, because, we have an argument for an hour and then we decide I'm right. Right?
Yes, quite. About some things, but not all of the things. Hopefully not about this one, because I really just... Allez les Bleus! Come on, Patrice. We don't want Patrice not being in the World Cup anymore.
Well, yes. I mean, you're split loyalties, though. Let's admit it. You're part German here, Paul.
Listen, without getting into the history of the whole thing, let's just say I was brought up with closer connections to France. Yeah.
Very good. So how are your connections to Argentina and Belgium, which is our final quarterfinal?
I've definitely been to Belgium and read some Tintin books, and I think Leo Messi's really good. There you go.
That's all you need to know. Muscles, beer, Tintin, Poirot.
And Adnan Januzaj.
And Adnan Januzaj, who's not playing except in the final group game. And he really wasn't very good. He looked like a rabbit caught in the headlights. So, Phil Mott said he was there for the experience, and that's about all it's going to be from here on out, I think. Anyway, so not a great couple of games, these two. So Argentina up first against Switzerland, which was pretty poor quality for much of it.
Yeah, the worst game in the round, I think. Worse than Costa Rica, Greece, as far as I'm concerned. Fast forwarded through loads of it because I was at work and came home to watch the recording and just ended up just thinking. So I just played it on double speed to make it slightly more watchable. But yeah, real lack of pace. Again, conditions play their part in that. And also Hitzfeld, he said beforehand he had a plan to deal with Messi, and that was just to stick 2 people on him all the time and to keep 10 men behind the ball for most of the game. We kind of revert to old Switzerland there.
Yes, they could have made a couple of clocks, though, during the game, given how few chances Argentina created at times. Anyway, yeah, it just wasn't a good game, and a lot of that was down to the Swiss tactics, of course, and Messi, brilliant on occasion, just couldn't make the final pass count until it really counted right at the end.
I mean, it almost looked like they weren't... When Portugal played, basically every time they had an attack, they were all looking to see where Ronnie was and tried to get him the ball. They weren't doing that with Messi in this game at all. They were looking to switch up the angles of attack and cross the ball to Higuain a lot and stuff. And I just was thinking, literally got Lionel Messi standing there and you're choosing not to use him to try and break down this really stubborn defence.
Yeah, but it also looked like they changed their formation around. We talked about this last time out in the podcast, exactly how they're going to use Messi. I mean, at first they tried this 4-3-3, then they tried him playing deep. They haven't really tried him in the false 9 position, which is the one he plays for Barcelona, of course. And yeah, they're still trying to work out how to get the best out of him because, they... As the Catalans like to say, they have a Messi dependency, right?
Yeah.
And even with all that attacking talent, they still need to get the best out of him. And, you've got to say that it doesn't look like Lavezzi's the answer.
No.
He was pretty poor, wasn't he? And Di Maria, a bit of a calamitous game all in all, until a fine finish to win it.
Yeah, there was a good period of time when they were playing the David Moyes patented 4-4-1-1 in that game with Messi properly behind the striker in the Wayne Rooney role. Messi a little bit better at it than Wayne Rooney is. It's interesting because I think they're really fortunate to be facing Belgium, who I imagine are going to somewhat park the bus against them because they've shown no reticence to defend, have they? The USA-Belgium game, the first half had quite a lot of action in it. I don't know, I wasn't super into it, but basically it really started to pick up in the second half of the second half, and from then until the end of the game it was absolutely breathless.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about the narrative of the game, right? Because it was just so close, pretty cagey. And I suppose tactical. And the thing with the USA, and we've said this before, is they don't have a lot of talent in there, right? But, boy, are they the best unit in the World Cup. Just obviously coached very well, very, very well drilled. They played a lot of friendlies. They're almost like a club side, aren't they? If you took them as a mid-table Premier League side that's hard to beat, that's them, and they're squeezing the best out of what they've got. And so it was like that for an hour or so, wasn't it? And then it just kind of opened up, and then it became end to end, and it was really good. And then you just thought the USA were shot, and half the team was dead on their feet. They looked knackered. They've played with such intensity through the tournament. Looked like it all gone. Belgium scored twice, and then where did that come from? The last 15 minutes, second half of extra time, the USA just absolutely brilliant. The intensity, wave after wave of attack, and just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Howard, Chris Woods there, former Manchester United goalkeeping coach, did an excellent job, clearly. But Tim Howard looks a different player when he plays for the USA. He looks like he grows a foot, and he's the man in that side, isn't he? And he's sort of on all the posters and all that kind of thing. And he looked like he was never going to be beaten. There was it was a magic spell almost cast over him in that game. And he looked so distraught when De Bruyne's goal went in. A fine finish from De Bruyne, it's worth saying.
Yeah, fine finish, and one of the very few mistakes that the USA back forward made. They had the chance to clear that twice and didn't do. And this is the thing, for the most part during this tournament, they've defended so well, and they've defended so well because they actually have some very good players back there. Surprisingly, Beasler and Gonzalez have been outstanding all tournament. Along with Howard. So they played Johnson at right back for most of the tournament, and then he came off, and Yedlin. Wow, I mean,
where did
this guy come from? I mean, cheeky bid or what? Just on the basis of that last 15 minutes, yeah. I mean, the guy is super quick, and talk about an attacking fullback.
You prepared to go full Poborski for him?
Yeah, why not? Just throw a couple. What's he going to cost? Can't be much.
The USA kept tweaking their hamstrings, and Raymond, what's his name? Raymond Verheyen had been piping up about Klinsmann, saying, "Oh yeah, no, I notice another hamstring's gone there," because the cost that they're paying for the intensity of their performance is those drills. Like, Klinsmann's an incredibly physical coach, isn't he? They are overtrained in true Moyes fashion.
Yes, and as a result, they looked shot, didn't they? So Zusi in particular looked knackered. Jermaine Jones, who's been immense the whole tournament, looked shot as well. Beckerman, they left on the bench because obviously he was gone. Cameron was he came into midfield and for all the running he did, he lacked quality, and they kind of traded that off, didn't they? So clearly they'd come to the end in terms of the intensity they could give, I suppose, and you'd fear for them in the next round as a result. But in the end they didn't make it. But boy, could they have made it? They created 3 or 4 really good chances right near the end of the game, including the free kick of the tournament, bounced off Clint Dempsey's shins. Otherwise he would have scored. And it's not patronising to say they've had a really good tournament, and they've got more out of this team than many people thought they would.
Absolutely. And talking of, you say it's the free kick of the tournament. It's obviously the second best free kick of the tournament, because the best free kick of the tournament was the one Thomas Müller fell over.
No, he's planned that.
That is the funniest thing that's ever happened. In the whole of human history, all the attempts at comedy, everything that's ever happened, the 2 happiest people on the planet watching that were Thierry Henry and Robert Pires, because their set-piece mess-up has been beaten by Thomas Müller.
Yes, I mean, 5 Germans run over the ball, and there's Müller supposed to run over the ball as well and run into the box to get the chipped through ball, and he just trips over his own laces or something.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful scenes. But yeah, huge respect to the USA. Algeria and the USA and Greece, in fact, they all 3 of them put in proper heartwarming mega shifts, and it was really sad to see them all go. But yeah, fantastic performances by all of them on the wrong end. And Belgium, I think you've also got to give some credit to Belgium, because they've not been very impressive at all in this tournament, but bringing Lukaku on really made all the difference, didn't it?
Well, they've got some talent on the bench, that's for sure. They can make a difference from the bench. Not all sides can do that. And we had a debate right at the beginning of our World Cup specials about whether they're dark horses or whether they're too good to be dark horses. I think they're back to being dark horses, right? Because they just haven't performed very well, but they keep winning, right? They are in the quarterfinals of the World Cup without really playing very well.
It's not really a surprise that they can't get all that talent to click, because they're playing Marouane Fellaini in the centre of midfield, and not to lump onto the poor fella, but he's just not very good, and he's so static, and he's just just a very, very average central midfielder. So it's very hard to get all those super creative players around. I mean, we're United fans. We know what it's like to have good players not being able to be brought into games because of the central midfield.
Would they be more dynamic if they played Chadli or Dembele in the middle there?
Well,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Would they keep the ball more? I just don't understand. Danny Murphy was banging on and on and on and on and on about it. So there's part of me going, "This is a scasser attacking our player." There's part of me going, "No, he's right."
He's absolutely right. It's terrible. That is terrible. 120 minutes of a co-commentator, a Liverpool co-commentator attacking a Man United player. Every time he says it, going, "Yep, no, fair enough."
There's the bit 2 minutes from time when Fellaini just basically walked it out of play, and you're like, "What?" Definitely a WTF moment.
I love the guy too. Like, even the elbow thing is horrible, but apart from that, like, there's something really endearing about him. But it's just a shame he's not better. Talking of Fellaini, I think he's one of the reasons why I'm predicting an Argentina win. Even though Argentina have not been desperately impressive, I thought they sort of relapsed against Switzerland, but I think that's partly conditions, partly Switzerland's tactics. But as you say, it's not all clicked yet. I still think they're going to have too much for Belgium because they've got Messi, and Messi's too much for everyone.
Yes, they've got Messi, but they've also got Fernandes and Garay in the centre of defence, and if Belgium decide that they can have a go at Argentina, then they've definitely got a chance. You suspect that they'll be a bit more cautious and they'll try and play on the break, and they can definitely do that because they've got the players to do it. Mertens and Hazard and Oglery and Origi. Hazard and Mertens and Origi up front are definitely going to cause problems if they get enough of the ball in attacking areas, and that's the big question, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a cracker. I'm predicting an Argentina win.
Yep, I can't not predict an Argentina win because they've got Messi.
Yeah,
it's a tough call because I've basically been pretty disappointed with Argentina for all the attacking talent they've got. They're not really applied it very often. They have to find the right balance. Belgium could do it because, they've got quality there. But you look at the way that the USA came back at them and they just gave away all the impetus. And you kind of figure that will probably happen against Argentina. Argentina will be on the front foot, and Belgium just don't look very good when they're not attacking.
I tell you, if Louis van Gaal was managing Belgium, I'd make them favourites to win this World Cup. Or Peckerman, in fact, or the guy that was the Chile coach. There's a really really good attack-minded tactical coach. I think Wilmots he's Will Moyes.
Yeah. No, he's just a bit cautious. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, this World Cup has told me. What the hell were we doing hiring David Moyes?
So a year today as we record this, the 1st of July 2013, he took office with the mouse not on the mouse mat and everything. Going into next season with Van Gaal, I was excited about it anyway, but watching this World Cup, it's like, I'm not saying everything he does is going to be right and it's all going to be sweetness and light and roses, but his tactical play in this World Cup has been some of the best I've ever seen in all my life, without exception. It's without hyperbole. It's been completely extraordinary.
No hyperbole, he says, while giving us a minute of hyperbole.
No, but it's only hyperbole if it's exaggeration, right? That's what I'm saying. I can't think of a tournament in my life where I've ever seen a team so much greater than the sum of its parts because of the manager's tactical input.
No, you're right. I mean, there's certainly been average sides that have done well in World Cups. You think of Argentina in '86. Not a lot of talent there, apart from Maradona. Yeah, easy slip to make that one. But their sole tactic was give it to Maradona, which worked fine.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly on the manager, that was it? Not that he did a bad job, but you know what I'm saying. It's like it is enough to get a person excited about their manager, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, so we are predicting Brazil, Netherlands, France or Germany. I think we're split on that one.
No, we're split on Brazil too. I'm predicting a Colombia win.
Okay. So Brazil or Colombia, Netherlands or Costa Rica, France or Germany, or Argentina or Belgium. Well, there you go. We're not on the fence at all at this show.
We both agree about Argentina. We both agree about the Netherlands. The other two, we've picked opposite sides. I think that's reasonable.
Fair enough. So that's the quarterfinals. Should be good. I'm looking forward to it. That's over the weekend. We have a couple of days break.
It's just wrong, isn't it? Except I'm going to see Monty Python in London, which I'm really excited about. So that's kind of I was like really glad I didn't end up missing any football.
Whew, that's a big trek for you. That's like going from Manaus to Porto Alegre.
Yes, exactly. So we've had a number of questions to the Rantcast this week. After last week's very Manchester United centric questions, I thought it'd be good to get some World Cup themed questions. And at Chicky_Babes says an 11 made with only one player from each team allowed.
Yes. Well, I've had a think. Now, the thing about this is it's the only one team allowed that's your problem, right? So,
yeah, of course.
This is definitely not going to be the best 11 of the World Cup. And I might even, once we get into talking about it, realise I've been a total idiot. But, hey. So I'll give you my 11 and then you can go and argue with it, right? So okay. I'm going for Maynor Navas as my goalkeeper.
Okay.
Costa Rican goalkeeper. My back four is Serge Aurier from the Ivory Coast.
Oh, good shout.
Omar Gonzalez, who's from the USA, has been absolutely brilliant through the tournament. Diego Godin from Uruguay. That's probably a bit controversial, but I think he was their standout player.
Okay.
And Ricardo Rodriguez, who I've banged on about for a long time, who would have been about a third the price of Luke Shaw.
That's our first match. So I'll do mine in a sec, but yeah, I've got Rodriguez in there too.
Okay, in midfield, and this is impossible.
Yeah,
I'm going for Sofiane Feghouli from Algeria, outstanding player. James Rodriguez, obviously.
Yeah,
cheating a bit by putting him in midfield.
I've not done that.
And Arturo Vidal. It could have been Pogba, could have been Matuidi. I just picked him because I like him.
Yeah.
And up front, I'm going for Arjen Robben, Lionel Messi, and Neymar.
Okay, that's really good. I played. We both gone 4-3-3, which is like brilliant because normally best 11s are always a 4-4-2, but that feels really anachronistic in this World Cup to do a 4-4-2. So we've both gone for 4-3-3. I've gone for a Neymar in goal. The other options would have been Ochoa and Navas, but I wanted players from their team in their outfield positions. But you made me regret it with your Serge Aurier pick, because I might have gone with Navas and Aurier, but I've gone with Enyema and Christian Gamboa, who's the right wing back for Costa Rica, who has been excellent in every game until the Greece game when he was unable to cope with Jose Holebas, who had a brilliant game.
Yeah, but who is another fine wing back as well. Yeah, well, Gamboa has been bombing up and down that wing for the whole tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. At centre back, if I hadn't been covering Greece, I might not have picked him, but covering Greece, so impressed with Socrates Papastathopoulos, and I would have him at United.
He's been excellent. Yeah, he's a bit short, but
he's not that short. Manolas as well, who I could have equally had Manolas, the young Greek centre back.
So philosophically, I didn't pick any Greeks because they are boring,
so harsh and so not fair. Haliche from Algeria alongside him in the centre.
We had a debate about whether he's the most Algerian-looking man in the history of Algerian-looking men.
Dude looks proper Algerian. I really like his beard. Like I try not to talk about beards too much on this podcast, but a fine beard on Haliche, and Rodriguez at left back like you. In the centre of midfield, no shared picks because I've not cheated. I've gone for Gustavo from Brazil. Pogba, could have gone Pogba or Matuidi, went Pogba, got that goal in the last game and just offers that something. And Hector Herrera, who's the reason that I didn't put Ochoa in goal. I just think Hector Herrera's had a very fine game.
3 excellent picks, all being excellent players this
time. And then up front, Rodriguez, Messi and Arjen Robben. Leaving out Neymar
controversial,
was really tough. And the other player that I didn't want to leave out was Alexis Sanchez.
Yep. So I left out Alexis, didn't want to leave him out, but I picked Vidal instead, and could have gone for a different balance there. You've got to say something about Muller, scored a ton of goals. Matuidi, I've mentioned. Jermaine Jones from the USA has been excellent.
Would you have Jermaine Jones at United?
No, I think he's a functional player, but he's great in that system and he's had a really good tournament. Pjanic, I know Bosnia were disappointing, but he was excellent.
He was, and actually when they finally won a game, he was brilliant.
Yeah, Cuadrado, the Colombian on the right wing, been excellent. Ameru, he's up there with some of the best, and obviously Bravo, the Chile keeper, has been outstanding as well. for the whole tournament, as well as all the keepers you mentioned. Oh, and Gary Medel.
Yeah, Gary Medel. You gotta love Gary Medel.
He's only 4'2". He's challenging Valbuena for shortest man in the tournament, aside from some of those very confused ball boys and mascots. But he's been excellent too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's just do a couple of quick questions. At AB5Y says, when do you think cricket's going to become big in the US?
I think we may be waiting some time. I mean, it's not quite big in the UK, and we're 300 years in. So.
At Sean KDLA says, should we sign free agent Ashley Cole as a mentor to Patrice Evra? No United related questions.
No.
At Paul Gunning one says, how silly does David Luiz look in yellow? I don't think he looks...
He looks silly in any colour.
He's a good man. At Fino76 asked what I think is a serious question here, which is, should the water breaks take place in a neutral area of the pitch, given the sort of tactical input that happened?
Why? So what? I mean, coaches try and have a tactical input all the time by screaming from the touchline and just happen to be there closely. The best coach is going to take advantage of that in the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then some other person on a different podcast is using the hashtag Rantcast. It's outrageous. I've just checked, though. They've only got 149 followers, so I'm not worried yet.
What are they? Should we sue? Are they a football podcast?
No, they're not. Yeah. They're ranting about stuff.
And then...
It's probably like a more accurate use of the name. And a final question. This is both Manchester United and World Cup related. At Bad Teeth Dentist says, if the Netherlands make it to the final, what are the odds some United fans will hire a plane to fly a welcome Van Gaal banner across the stadium?
Well, we could reuse the David Moyes out one.
Yeah, we could.
Just as a post-ironic joke.
This one's a good one. Another one from AB5Y says, have any players who rose to prominence during a World Cup, have they ever gone on to have a really good career?
Michael Owen?
So harsh.
Yeah, no, you're right. He didn't really have a good career.
No, he didn't. I think, generally speaking, it's not so much that the players that have captured everyone's attention, like the James Rodriguez thing. Like, we're all talking about him at this World Cup, and we haven't been talking about him all through last season generally, but he did go to Monaco for 45 million euros, so it's not exactly like this is his kind of coming out debutante thing.
No. Look, his talent is no surprise to anyone. It's just he's playing at Monaco and not in the Champions League, so unless you watch a lot of Ligue 1 and I watch a bit of it, you won't have seen a lot of him last season.
No, absolutely. But I do think, and like Diego Maradona was an international footballing superstar before 1986 World Cup, but the 1986 World Cup did properly cement his legacy, didn't it? That specifically, the goal against England. I mean, maybe that's a bit of Anglo-centric bias, but
yeah.
But that moment firmly proved to everyone that he was Diego Maradona with a capital DM.
Of course, he'd been and gone from Barcelona by that time. But
yeah, absolutely.
But no, completely. Look, this is the world stage. It's the focus of the entire planet is on these games. That's why it's so big. That's why FIFA makes all this money. That's why there are 50,000 people in a stadium in Illinois watching the USA. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and I've loved seeing it get big in America. I know it's like, it's easy. It's so easy to make fun of American soccer fans. I don't mean the kind of people that are listening to this podcast who are proper hardcore football fans. I mean the kind of people that don't really follow soccer but pick it up during the World Cup. There's it would be like me talking about NFL or baseball or something. Is completely ill-informed and just like say, well, so why is he standing there waiting for the man to throw the ball at him, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it has an endearing quality anyway.
Baseball, which is basically designed just so you can eat hot dogs and drink beer for the entire game. I've been to a few baseball games, funnily enough, over the years. I've been to Fenway, and I've been to whatever the one in San Diego is called, and the new Yankees Stadium, and a few others actually, just random. You're there in the States, you go see some sport, right? Even now, after seeing quite a few games, I can't quite get the point of it. So a guy stands on a lump of dirt, he throws the ball so fast you cannot see it, and very, 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 very rarely someone hits it. and you hear the sound before you see it because you can't see the bloody thing because it's going so fast, which just feels very un-American. Yet they say it's the American sport because, you know, we're used to thinking of Americans of wanting more action and goals, and, you know, the complaint about football is there's not enough goals. Well, no one ever does anything in baseball, ever. Anyway, that's my rant about baseball, and I will be hated for some time.
I quite like baseball, I should say, at this point.
It's just not cricket.
Do you like American football? I really like American football. Do you not?
Can't stand it. It's too contrived for me. It's all drawn out in a. David Moyes would like it. He could get his PowerPoint out and call the plays.
I love it. I find it sort of weirdly a good American football play is like one of the. I'm going to use an American type phrase. It's like one of the most electrifying moments in sports when you get a good American football play, like a really well executed running play or a fantastic kind of smart pass, and there's so much kind of nuance and tactics. I like American football.
Very good. Well, that's a diversion. Yeah, that won't have.
Yeah, I like the World Cup a lot more.
I've been electrified by the World Cup, I'll tell you that.
Phenomenal. I mean, I just can't quite believe what we're being treated to. You go into the World Cup, and as I said at the beginning of this World Cup, that in my mind there is really no such thing as a bad World Cup. I'll watch a bunch of turgid 0-0 draws played in the heat and still get quite a lot out of it because it's the World Cup. But when you're seeing relentless drama, every game has either been of a really high standard or has had loads of drama, or both. You know, it's just been absolutely phenomenal.
It has. You should be forced to watch Greece versus Tajikistan in a stadium in the middle of the Sahara Desert over and over and over again. And then Stevie is so enthusiastic.
What? That seems like an unnecessary way to diminish what is, I think, probably quite a positive quality.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. No, you're right. It's been absolutely great. Of course, we've got 2 days off, which in a way is good because, you know, you need to wean yourself off the drug because the tournament is coming to a close, my friends.
It is. There's 8 games left, and one of them doesn't really count. So
no, that's right. You know, this World Cup final nonsense. It's the third place playoff is where the action is. Yeah. No, you're right. It's very nearly over.
And it's the 2 quarterfinal days are kind of the right way round because there's this 2-day break, but it's not 2-day break and then Argentina versus Belgium reopening proceedings. It's 2-day break, then explosion of football because France against Germany and Brazil against Colombia on the same day.
It should be great stuff at the weekend. It should be great stuff. Thoroughly looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too listening, and thank you very much for listening to these World Cup Rantcasts. A surprisingly large audience for these. I thought we might just be talking to ourselves and our mates and our family.
Yeah, it's lovely to have folks on board. I've had a load of tweets from people that don't normally listen to the show because why would you if you're not a United fan? So that's been lovely. If you want to tweet at us, I'm at UTD Rantcast. Ed is at United Rant. You can get us both at facebook.com/United Rant or post on the show page at unitedrant.co.uk. If you want to help out with bandwidth costs and the like, it's unitedrant.co.uk/donate because we're donationware, so we don't have adverts for Squarespace and such.
Very good, and we'll see you shortly. We'll be back in a week's time, hopefully, to talk to you about some cracking quarterfinals.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.